My Family's Slave by Alex Tizone highlights a personal story of slavery in modern America. The main point is to share Tizone's experiences on owning a slave, called Lola, as he moves to the U.S. from the Philippines and grows up. This text shows how Tizone first realized Lola was a slave when his older brother told him. The structure of this text juxtaposes the naivety of childhood with the horrible reality of slavery. In his college years, Tizone calls Lola a slave to his mother in order to show himself and his mother that he is aware of the slavery. Despite his verbal disgust at the practice, he does little to help Lola. For the first time in his life, adult Tizone disobeys the tyrannical role he was shaped into by giving Lola the life she deserves. Here, Lola enjoys the simpler things in life, a pleasure she hadn't gotten for decades. These activities demonstrate Lola is developing a stronger sense of self and personality. Despite the lengths Tizone went to give Lola a better life, she still considers herself a slave. Tizone's experiences change his attitude toward Lola 3 times. At first, Tizone is indifferent to Lola's servitude. Here, Tizone normalizes slavery by equating it to other typical dynamics in his life. He does not consider the relationship wrong, but rather expects the service. Tizone attained this matter-of-fact mindset because he was born and raised in a family where slavery was common. For example, his mother was raised by servants, and she received Lola as a gift at a young age. In addition, according to Adele's article in Philstar Global about Tizone's story, slavery in the Philippines not only exists, but is prevalent. At 11 years old, Tizone recognizes the power dynamic between his parents and Lola as slavery. When Tizone's mother calls him a sanctimonious phony, she hits the head on the nail. He does not do anything to stop Lola's mistreatment because he both expects the service and cannot imagine a life without her. In effect, Tizone is ashamed. When Tizone matures, he fully realizes the horror of slavery and the injustices against Lola. Tizone's viewpoint definitely skews the presentation. This is expected as the story involves him and thus presents only one side of the truth. For example, Tizone explicitly states actions taken to help Lola, such as getting her an ATM card and teaching her to drive, to prove to himself and show the reader that he at least attempted to make up for the years he was complicit in her slavery. While reading, I was acutely aware of my bias against the practice of slavery. This is because I was raised in a society against slavery. I expected Tizone to formally stand up to his parents about their abuse toward Lola. This is easy for me to say, as someone who has never encountered a dilemma of this nature. In reality, taking a stand on such a monumental subject is likely much harder to achieve, especially when you are young and rising up against your parents, the most influential figures of your childhood. My interpretive lens made me quick to judge and slow to sympathize with Tizone. My bias against slavery fueled an irate attitude to the casual explanations of everyday slavery. I was not able to mitigate the effects on my interpretation. However, I don't think it negatively impacted my experience due to the nature of the topic. My research showed me how an individual is groomed into servitude and over time must be coaxed out of it. Knowing this, I can begin to understand the lifelong struggle Tizone undertook by trying to give Lola experiences in her life, like family vacations his family stole from her. After further research, I learned that this article was published months after Tizone's death. The family that survived him worked with The Atlantic to ensure it got published. The Atlantic refers to the piece as Tizone's story, which draws focus away from Lola. This knowledge made me emphasize with Tizone for the first time. It allowed me to understand the immense guilt he unfairly grew up with and his strong desire to shed light on stories like Lola's, evident in his respect toward Lola and effort to write this piece.